Hello my friend, welcome back to my channel. This is Miss Ming or Dr. Ming. In my channel, I do a variety of lifestyle videos and academic videos. About a year ago, I graduated my PhD program and I've been working full-time for a year. Recently, as I was watching some of the videos from previous years, I definitely had a lot of reflections on maybe there's things that I could have done differently. I know, in today's video, we're going to talk about some of the regrets I had in graduate school during my PhD program and my master program that precedes that. So before we start, don't forget to give this video a thumbs up for the YouTube algorithm, give your support and subscribe and personalize the bell. And also, after this video, check out my other lifestyle content that's more fun. Let's get into today's video. Okay, so I want to say that I have a relatively successful graduate school experience during my PhD program because I feel like I basically progressed in the program pretty smoothly. I finished all of my courses on track. I passed my qualified exam. I did my proposal and I got a dissertation grant that funded my research. I paid my participants for doing the experiment with me, and later I graduated and I had a job laying down the road waiting for me as I graduate. So overall, I had great experience, pretty happy graduate student life, and I have amazing classmates. I had amazing professors. But there are definitely things that I felt like I had regrets. I want to share it with you, no matter if you're planning to go to graduate school or already in graduate school. So hopefully some of my experience can benefit you as well. Okay, so the first thing that I regret is not to claim a specific research interest. I think a lot of students struggle with that. As graduate students, we collaborate with the professors we work with. So some professors that we work with may work on STEM research, others may work on language acquisition, others may work on data science and things like that. So definitely I had exposure and experience in all of this. And in terms of my own research, I felt like my own research is heavily influenced by the work that I've been collaborating on with other professors and other PhD students. So one of the things I realized is that after I graduated, after I published stuff, after I did a lot of presentations and a lot of prestigious conferences as well, I look back in the CV, I don't see a clear concentration or a clear focus of my career. Some of my research was on language acquisition, others were in language assessment, the other ones are with testing, and the other ones are with higher ed. And then I move on to program evaluation and data science and big data analysis, national represented data analysis. So you can kind of see I started with like a particular content area and then move on forwards to methodology. If I were in a hiring committee, I look at this person's curriculum vita, I would go like, oh, this person probably is very hardworking, very active in participating in different research projects, probably did a lot of contributions. But what is the one thing you claim to be? What is your research identity? Now that I think that, my research identity would be quantitative research or mixed methods, more towards methodology, not towards like so much of a content area, because methodology could be a little bit more versatile. And also now with my current job, maybe work towards the data science to become a data scientist compared to the actual like theory content. But at the same time, I felt like when I was teaching theory courses, when I was teaching content courses, I was a really good lecturer back then. So I could definitely see my own identity conflicts even now. I think I got really lucky because I just happened to find this job and I just happened to be a really good fit for this job. And that's also not just because of my graduate school. Because my bachelor degree was actually not in education or social science, my bachelor degree was in information management. So I work with information, I work with databases, I work with data science, and I work with coding. So having that bachelor degree was really beneficial combined with my educational background for for my graduate school, I was able to land this job, but it wasn't really planned. So I felt like if I could redo, I may actually just like take a break from all of the research, from all of the writing, and just stick in, maybe just have some me time, really think about it, really read research, really look on the job market, what is or the research focus that I am super interested in, that I want to be super focused and claim that that is my thing, that I am an expert in that thing, and also try to claim that identity and use that research focus to land a job in the future. But instead, I was probably a little bit versatile. At the same time, I didn't know everything to the extent degree. With databases, I stopped my training about 8 years ago after I finished my bachelor degree. So definitely I'm not like an expert in that. With the same with like quantitative research, there are also a lot more cutting edge research methodology that's coming up. I haven't been trained in that because I've also working on other content research. So again, I felt like I'm pulled to different directions and I don't really have a research identity. And every time people are like, oh, we work with information system, I was like, that is my major. And somebody's like, I work with ESL, second language acquisition. And I was like, that is my research. And somebody talk about national represented data, with survey data, especially like now during the pandemic, there are a lot of survey data going on. There are a lot of national represented databases. So working with these data, I know. Again, I was like, I'm not an expert in any of them, but I know any of them. I have training in any of them. So I felt that identity conflict was definitely there. And I felt like if I was able to narrow down early on, it wouldn't be that much of a conflict later. Because when I was doing my dissertation research, I was first going to propose one study, which I think will be great, but then my committee actually vetoed it because it's a little bit deviated from my actual academic track, because like my committee was trying to help me to narrow down to one thing, which is towards assessment and testing. Really grateful for that, by the way. If they didn't veto my first plan, I wouldn't get the dissertation grant. So I felt like I had amazing professors that helped me to narrow down, to try to be as focused as possible. But if I could see it myself early on, I could have avoided a lot of efforts that didn't really work towards my goal or identity construction as a researcher in academia. That is my first regret. So if you're a master's student or PhD student early on, try to think about one thing you want to be expert in, and try to narrow your focus. You don't have to participate in every single research project. You don't have to always collaborate with your dear friends. You can just like help each other out by reading each other's papers and trying to practice presentations, but try to spend focused and targeted effort in one thing that builds your career, that constructs your research identity. And I think that will be very beneficial if you could do that early on. The second regret is not to start my YouTube channel early on. I think this could be one thing that I heard over and over again from different people. A lot of times we try to postpone other aspects of our life because of school. And I'm just gonna say it, I think it's dumb for me not to start my YouTube channel early on in my first year in grad. I feel like it's not just about YouTube channel, it's about all other aspects of life, because graduate school is long. Yes, master degree is only 2 years, right? But PhD degree is usually 4 to 6 years. That you don't want to postpone your life just because of your study. To be honest, it's not necessarily worth it. So I think I realized it later. Today I was talking to my friend. I was like, I want to have 2 babies before the age of 35. And then she's like, oh, that means you have to get married around 30 because you need 5 years, to plan and stuff. And you want some, couple time before you have babies, right? And then it was like, oh my gosh. So I will probably graduate in 2019 when I'm 29. Oh my gosh, it's gonna be difficult. If I want to have babies, I have to get married and graduate at the same time. By the way, I did. That's when I had the epiphany. That's when I was like, oh my gosh, I need to start dating. I need to try to know people, talk to people. Not necessarily like you're like, oh, I need to find a husband immediately, but I needed to open up and try to socialize and not really live in my cave and working on papers every day. At the end of the day, the outcome for every single individual is great. That is just what it is. So it's important to live the life as you finish your studies, pursuing your dream, and work on your career. So definitely, I think I learned that a little bit later in my program. I was prioritizing school for the longest time, and then I was like, it's not worth it. I would rather hang out with my husband, my boyfriend at the time, rather than like publishing an additional paper. I know it sounds crazy. I'm not encouraging you to work less hard, but there are also other priorities and other things that are so important in life. And I felt like at the end of the day, I felt so great. I got a lot of praises when I was a graduate student, but by the time you graduate, like nobody's going to talk about it. Nobody at work cared about what publications I sent out. Like nobody really cared. Nobody in my family cared about me publishing like research articles or presenting in different conferences. Nobody cares. Time I spent with my husband, and we are going bike riding, like, eating out food, and, like go traveling, take cruises. Those are the memories that are forever. That's like every time I think of them, I'm happy. So the second regret I have, actually I realized it later, but the second regret I have is not to live the life just because I wanted to focus on school. School is important, but so is life. The important message is to be present. So what choices you want to make as of now to be happy. If you want to be productive and work to be happy, that's great. But if you also want to prioritize your family, prioritize your spouse or significant other, prioritize your friend, it's also a choice you make as of this present. So whatever happened in the future is actually irrelevant. So you have to learn to live in this current present moment, to enjoy every moment of life. So that's what I learned during my PhD study, is that I want to be a great student, but I also want to enjoy life. So that's the second regret. The third regret is also kind of sort of associated with not starting a YouTube channel early on, is that in graduate school, we have this quote-unquote dream of getting a higher degree, getting a perfect job, being well paid, trying to ascend in the social class system. And I think at a certain point, I think it did help me, because it did help me land this job. After I entered the workforce, I realized that the actual work experience is so much more important than having a higher degree. You don't even have a bachelor degree if you have 7 to 15 years of experience in the industry. It's basically an equivalent of your school training or even higher. So an example of this will be somebody in the same position at my company works 20K more per year just because he works for longer and he has more experience, more years of experience. So even though he only has a master's degree, I have a doctorate degree, he makes this much money, I make this much money. At the end of the day, I felt like entering the workforce as early on as possible is more important than focus only on school. That doesn't mean that you shouldn't go for a higher degree. It definitely increased the opportunities and chances of you getting promoted and finding a better job. But at the same time, I felt like it's important to start working part-time in the industry or in the type of career you want to work in. Starting to work part-time first and maybe try to work full-time and do part-time school may be more optimal than focus only on school. I know it's a little bit cruel, but do you know that more than 80% of the students in this country are actually non-traditional students, which means that they have a part-time or full-time job. They may actually took a break from school, work a little bit, and then went back to school part-time or full-time. They may have children, they may already have family. So 80% of the people, actually I think it's more than 80% of the people are doing it. So having a high degree, pursuing knowledge is definitely very, very important and beneficial, but try to enter the workforce as early as possible, and it definitely increases the likelihood of getting a better job or higher paid job later. And I also want to say that if I started my YouTube channel early on, maybe 5 years ago, I could have had more subscribers. Back then, not a lot of people were doing YouTube, and now everybody basically has a YouTube channel, maybe for personal purposes as well, but there are millions of people uploading millions of minutes of content every single minute on YouTube, and that is how competitive it is right now. But if I could start it earlier, I could have vlogged all of the ups and downs in my PhD study. I could look back to my vlogs and try to reflect on my experience a little bit more. I could have filmed a lot of travel vlogs when I went to New York, when I went to DC for different trainings. I was able to sightsee on the weekend. I definitely felt like one of my biggest regrets is not to start my YouTube channel early on and to be able to document this whole PhD studies process. I felt like it's going to be an interesting content and channel to have, but it's a little bit sad by the time I have this channel, I'm like kind of sort of ready to graduate. So it is what it is. It's not to say that if you're a PhD student, start a YouTube channel now, because doing YouTube is actually really, really time consuming. It really depends on your current work-life balance. But my overall suggestion or overall reflection is to start entering the career force, start to look for side hustles, start to look for things you love, hobbies that can make you a little bit of side hustle money, and at the same time try to succeed in school as well. The last PhD regret, it is actually not so much of a regret. It's more of like a overall reflection, because I don't regret doing well and getting 4.0 GPA in graduate school, but at the end of the day, your grades don't matter. So the last regret is to focus too much on studying, not so much on producing. I think I took one of the classes with one of my favorite professor, and she's like, what do you think can lend you a job? And everybody's like, oh, if we know a lot of knowledge, if we know a lot of like methodology, I may land a job. And then she's like, yeah, if reading is a career, let's all pursue it. You can't make money for knowing a lot unless you're producing. So I think at the very beginning, I was like trying to focus so much on learning as much as possible, which is great. I'm still continuously learning. But what really helps you to land a job or really helps you to compete in the job market is what you are producing, is your presentation, publication, your teaching. If you're teaching classes, experience shared by your students, your overall course rating, and a lot of those things, including your YouTube videos, right? That's like one of your production. So getting a 4.0 really means nothing, because really nobody cares. Or like you could read so much wisdom, but at the end of the day, it may benefit you. It may not benefit as much as you think in your career. So the actual important elements is to produce. I think we're trained to study and get a high GPA in high school, in college, even in master program as well. But eventually, it's not your GPA that gets your job. It's the research, the cutting edge research publication that helps you to get a job. So focus on what you know that can help you produce. At the same time, I'm trying not to get so bad of a grade. So definitely, I think I learned that in the second year, so it wasn't too late for me. That definitely is one of the misconceptions I heard, and people are like making big deal about GPA, and people are like, oh my gosh, you have 4.0 GPA. I'm like, it means nothing. I'm sorry. It's great to be a straight A student, but at the end of the day, it doesn't mean anything in the workforce. It just means that you are a good student. It doesn't necessarily mean that you're a good worker. It doesn't necessarily mean that you can apply the knowledge. So try to show that you can apply your knowledge in your research projects, in your internship, in different aspects of production, not so much on how much I know. Alrighty, these are the regrets that I have during my PhD studies, during my graduate school. I hope this video can be helpful to you as well. If you're also a graduate student, please comment down below what are your regrets in graduate school, and maybe we can help each other out. And if you have graduated, what are your regrets from graduate school entering the workforce, like what you learned from the workforce? Maybe it can benefit more of us. So share your experience and tips and your reflections in the comment down below so that you can help out our community. Alrighty, that's it for today. If you liked today's video, please give it a thumbs up. It really helps me out with the YouTube algorithm. And don't forget to subscribe and personalize the bell so that you won't miss out my future content. And I will see you in my next video. Bye! you.